Hi, my name is Tom Murphy. Welcome to another edition of the show tonight. Tonight we're very honored to have the Dean of Westchester Journalism, Mr. Phil Reisman from LoHUD and the Journal News. Phil, thanks a lot for...
Hey, Tom, thanks for having me.
No problem.
It's great
Tom.
to be here. I love your set. I love the globe.
The globe. Do you remember?
Belgian Congo, I think. This is an old globe.
Do you remember Professor McBragg, Colonel McBragg? Remember that cartoon when
Yeah.
we were kids?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's sort of reminiscent of.
I love that. It's cool. So.
We're talking tonight, this is the Friday after the election.
Right.
It's November 8th.
Yep.
So we're going to talk a little bit about what has happened
Okay.
in Westchester County. The first, the main event, I guess, was Astorino and Bramson.
Right.
And what is your take on that?
Well, my first reaction was a surprise that, I wasn't surprised that Astorino won, but the margin of victory was really wide. It was 56 or 55, 45, 56, 44.
It was 56-44.
Yeah, and which is was a surprise. But there it is. He's got his second term, and
Do you think that when I read some of his quotes from election night, Astorino's quotes from election night, it seemed that he was hitting on state issues too.
Astorino really just basically won because he hammered home taxes,
Right.
and and he talked a lot about the holding the tax levy in Westchester County, and he just relentlessly attacked Noam Bramson on the taxes, the situation in New Rochelle, and he. There was a certain amount of truthiness in how he characterized it, but it really worked.
It did.
He used this mantra of 109% tax increases over a period of Bramson's political career there, and he brought up the garbage tax and this, library surcharge and the fire hydrant tax, and that just, I think that resonated with voters countywide.
And also the situation where Noam took a 40% raise in 1 year.
Yeah.
I had that when I was walking door to door. People would ask me if that was actually the case.
Is that right?
Yeah, and I think that sometimes the little things bore into somebody's head, and that's what they remember when they go into.
Yeah. Well, the timing on that was not the best because it was right around the time of people watching their 401ks and their IRAs going up in smoke. The stock market had crashed. People's housing, home values were going down. There was a feeling of people were losing their jobs or getting furloughed. It was a great feeling of insecurity at the time. And, I guess there hadn't been a raise for the mayor and the city council in New Rochelle for quite some time. Yeah. And I guess he felt that it was, and the other members of the council at that time thought it was overdue. But it's just the appearance that
it comes back to
the perception does, right? Yeah. So that hurt.
And I think what happened too, and let me just qualify this. Noam is a friend of mine. I know Noam for a lot of years, but I think what happened too is the charges were made and they didn't seem to be answered. They didn't seem to be effectively answered or mitigated.
Yeah, and I think he tried to answer it at one point by saying, well, the tax rates in the other major cities are actually higher than New Rochelle's, and that, number one, that I don't think that really mattered to people to hear that. Number two, those were other Democratic mayors in those cities probably weren't real happy that he was pointing out to their constituents that their tax rates are high. Yeah. So there was a certain amount of exaggeration and distortion on that issue that played itself out. I went to the nonpartisan Westchester Fair Campaign Practices Committee that came back not only once but twice saying that Astorino's list of attacks on Bramson were quote unquote unfair. They did it the first time, and then he continued with it. And they had another session and came back again with it's unfair. But people weren't, people just thought, hey, Astorino reflects my views. I'm not saying mine, but necessarily theirs about taxes, and it's this is the highest taxed county in the country, continues to be.
But that's the point.
Yeah,
it continues to be, even though we've had 4 years of because you and I both know the real driver of taxes is your school and local.
And you know what, Tom? People don't really understand that.
No,
I mean, you do, and probably a certain percentage of informed county residents understand that the county executive really doesn't have that much power to change yours and my tax bills.
Right.
He just doesn't. He can, as you just said, 20% of it is controlled by the county. Much of that is mandated.
Right.
So it's a very small single-digit percentage of almost like playing around with mad money that the county executive actually has any say over. It's mostly school and mostly local.
You know, when I was a Village of Mamaroneck trustee, you know, unless you were talking about getting rid of people or cutting services, when you were doing the budget, you were really fooling around with a couple $100,000.
Right, right.
Of stuff that you could
right.
do. Do you not want to have, you know, the baseball league, you know, whatever. It just
exactly. And I think I think it made it extra tough on a mayor, you know, who has, you know, real sort of, you know, on the ground issues to deal with. And county executives kind of can skim above that sometimes, I think. But you know what? You know, as symbolic as Astorino's stance is on this kind of thing, you know, I think people felt a like-mindedness with that, and they saw the, you know, the conflict and controversy going on in New Rochelle, and I think that tax thing just worked.
Yeah, it did work. It was very effective, and it wasn't answered, in my opinion.
No, it probably wasn't. Yeah.
Okay, but so we have the county executive returning. Tim Idoni was reelected.
Right.
So in a lot of ways, the music stopped and everybody grabbed the chair that they originally had.
Right.
The county legislative board is going to remain, it looks like 10 to 7 Democrats.
7. Right.
But we don't know how it's going to shake out.
We don't. The Republicans in Westchester were concerned about two races. They were concerned about the county executive's race, and they were concerned about one race in the county board. 17 seats were up. I would say something like 9 races were non-competitive or
nobody ran.
Or nobody ran.
Yeah.
But they were interested in that one district, and that was District 10, which includes New Rochelle, parts of New Rochelle, Eastchester, and Tuckahoe.
It was Marcotte and
Sheila Marcotte was the incumbent in that district versus Mary Jo Jacobs. I'm sorry, Mary Jo, and that was considered a very key race, and the Republicans were particularly worried that Marcotte would lose because she barely won it the last time she ran the first time. Plus, it's New Rochelle. You know, a lot of it was New Rochelle, drawing votes. You know, Bramson was, you know, they thought or hoped, the Democrats hoped, would allow Jacobs to kind of swoop in.
To have a coattail effect.
Yeah, coattail effect didn't happen.
No.
And so what that means is that that 10-7, Democrat over Republican, is still in place, but also still in place was this coalition of 2 Democrats that joined over with the Republican side to pass the 2013 county budget. That ostensibly is still in place. So,
right, and I think there was something in the paper today or yesterday about Kaplowitz saying he hasn't decided who he's going to. I guess he's playing this for everything it's worth.
Right.
And you know.
Right. Yeah. Mike Kaplowitz, who was one of those Democrats to join the coalition, along with Virginia Perez and Yonkers, another Democrat. You know, I mean, it's putting it strongly, but in effect, they defected from.
No, I don't think that's strong enough.
Okay. Yeah, all right. Well, loyal Democrats would say so. And they basically, you know, ditched Ken Jenkins, the chairman. And Mike is a veteran county legislator, been there for a long time.
He's a smart guy. He's
a very smart guy, and he may be the, you know, what may shake down from all of this come January 1st is an attempt to oust Ken Jenkins as the chairman. You know, if you've got a coalition, 7 Republicans and two Democrats who are on the same side, that could happen, and Mike Kaplowitz might be the Democrat they would choose.
Now, I mean, I know Ken, and I personally like Ken, but you know, it's hard to make an argument that he's been effective because the Democratic agenda hasn't gone forward. You know, the constant suing of Astorino, even though he might be right on some of those issues, no one wants to see government by lawsuit.
Well, and nobody, you know, especially, you know, I think people were taken aback by the constant fighting, you know, that was going on, and I think Ken took the brunt of that criticism.
Maybe not even fairly, but
yeah, exactly. Yeah. I don't think it was all just Ken Jenkins. You know, it was, you know, but the thing that's going on here and was going on in the country at large is this sort of idea of, hey, you know, I'm standing on my principles and I'm not going to budge. You know, the idea of compromise is considered quaint now, in government, not just here, but everywhere. And so you had Ken Jenkins, who had a certain point of view, and you have Rob Astorino, who had a certain point of view. I think where Jenkins blew it was he, day one, acted like he wanted to be county executive, and so you were, fairly or unfairly, you had the perception that he was running for office as chairman against Astorino.
So everything looked politically motivated.
So everything looked politically, even if it was, based on principles.
And he was, in some sense, he was a new county legislator. He hadn't been around for a long time. So it takes a while in any form of government to kind of learn how to work the levers.
Right. Well, I mean, I'll tell you, Ken is a very smart guy. Though,
he is,
and he was, and he came out of the Yonkers system, which, to do that, you have to have a sense of, you have to have a certain guile and a certain acute sense of how to survive in a political brawl, and he is a fighter.
Yes, he is.
There's no doubt about that. Now, I don't know what's going to happen. I have no predictions on this, but I would say it's going to be interesting to watch what the county board does. I don't think Mike Kaplowitz, although, I don't think he's officially said he's interested in becoming chairman. I don't think he's the only one, too. I think there might be a few others that are.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of power in being chairman. Plus, the pay's better, too.
Yeah, exactly. And there are a lot of people. There's a lot of people in politics, and from my, short time being involved and limited experience, but it seems to me there's a lot of people that didn't play a lot of team sports. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They don't look out for the better interest of the whole community. It's like, I'll take the jump shot no matter where I am because I got the ball right now.
Yeah, but you played basketball, right?
Yes, I played basketball.
So you know about passing and you know about all that.
Setting up somebody else.
Yes. But did you
actually making someone else look good?
Let me ask you something. In all of your time and talking to groups and everything, when you ran for office, did you ever say, this is not about me, it's about you, the voters? Because I always think when politicians say that, they're really saying it is all about me. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean,
it's a cliche that I always think is suspect, to tell you the truth.
Well, you know what? You gotta. I try to avoid the cliches because it's a an arbiter of like you really don't have anything to say. You have no ideas of your own. You're falling back, and I'm going to give you 110%, and
I just thought that when we talk about the county executives race, it really was about the candidates. I mean, in that case, because both of these guys, are not, their ambition is not in neither case is their ambition to be county executives serving the people of Westchester.
They both
from
have,
time to immemorial. You know,
there's an interesting when you look at the races. People went into the booth. In Westchester, I believe, the 5 Democratic judge candidates for Supreme Court.
Oh, man.
One in Westchester. I don't know how they did.
Yeah.
So people went, they voted for those 5 Dems.
Yep.
A lot of times they dropped off, voted for Astorino, came back, voted for Tim Idoni.
Right.
So voters are discerning.
Well, that, actually, it's interesting. And you mentioned how they kind of skipped around. There's one of the county, I forget now which one it was, but one of the county judge candidates got more votes on the Democratic line than Bramson did. I mean, that's telling you something.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in a county where it's, the enrollment, favors Democrats is 2-1, and it's going to get wider probably.
Because I think